Welcome, friends. It's Miss Chisa, and today I have a very special guest, author and illustrator, Lea Carranza. Welcome, Lea.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you share your new book with us today. Lea is the author and illustrator of the picture book, 1, 2, 3, Breathe, Bumble Bee. It is beautiful. And you wrote and illustrated this.
I did.
And it's a very, in my opinion, as a teacher, a very child-friendly book about mindfulness and breathing and being in touch with your emotions.
Yes, and recognizing what feelings in our bodies are telling us about our emotions, because sometimes we don't know.
Yes.
And so listening to our bodies and noticing those signs are really helpful in noticing our emotions.
And that's really helpful for adults as well as children, by the way.
For adults. And if we taught it to children first,
yes,
we would have adults who would already know.
I agree.
So that is my main goal, is to implement it in childhood.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because then it becomes a part of you and you practice it all your life. And then it's just like breathing, right? You don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. And that, without going too much into Bumblebee's adventure and Bumblebee's story, is kind of one of the most frustrating things we can tell kids is, oh, just breathe. Because our bodies do that naturally. Our bodies breathe without us telling it to. Our bodies are so smart. And the difference is deep breathing, intentional breathing, and self-regulation. So when we breathe deeply and intentionally, we activate this part of the brain. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
Kind of out here in the base of the spine. And what that does is it regulates emotions. It helps us feel more calm and more peaceful. And it can kind of snap us out of those scary feelings.
Yeah. And, I didn't learn about this until like a few years ago. And so I think it's so wonderful that there is this attention and being focused on with children to teach them how to do this, because it really is a valuable skill to have.
Definitely. I didn't learn it either. And that my parents didn't know it either. So I thought it was, no one knew, so no one taught. Yeah. And I had a lot of anxiety as a youngin', and especially as an adolescent, very, very debilitating panic attacks. And it wasn't until I started doing yoga and I started breathing. Breathing in yoga is the number one thing. Yeah. I started learning the benefit of deep breathing and mindful breathing.
Is that what inspired you to write this story for children?
As much as it was, there's so many different ways that this book came to be. It started off as a school project back in one of my classes, which is so funny because I didn't think that I would actually end up publishing it. But as I was writing it, our assignment was to write a little comic strip or a children's book about a children's book class assignment about something psychoeducational for kids. Like, how would we explain it to young children, appropriate age development? And I was thinking, wow, I really had a lot of anxiety as a little kid. And I feel like if I knew how to breathe properly, I maybe would have been able to cope better. Maybe not, get all of my stressors away and my life would have been perfect, but I would have been able to regulate myself enough to where it wasn't detrimental to my health. Yeah. And so it sounds so simple. Breathing sounds so simple, and it's really not. It's really hard.
It's really hard. I mean,
it's really hard.
Yeah. I still struggle with it. Like I still struggle with that meditative breathing.
And I guess I learned so many bits and pieces along the way. So I also grew up as a singer, and I know, fun fact. I grew up as a singer, and we did a lot of breathing exercises. And one thing, when I made the connection, after doing yoga, my brain was like, oh, wait, this is what it actually looks like. I'll go through this a little bit later, but I always thought that when I would breathe, like everyone's shoulders kind of go up or their chest goes out.
Yeah.
It's actually not a deep breath. It's like not at all what should be happening in your body when you're doing that. It's actually your tummy that should go out. And this should all stay still. A chest breath is a shallow breath. And, integrating all of these things inspired Bumblebee. And everyone always called me a busy bee. So that was actually what created the main character was a little buzz bee.
Yes.
So understand, I think a lot of people relate with that. Even kids, we like put kids in a lot of activities, right? And like kids are
they are buzzing around.
They're buzzing around. And I feel like that as an adult, I don't like I ever grew out of that. And so in that, it's very relatable.
Very. And children love animals. And so it's,
I love animals.
Yes. Yeah. What age do you feel children should start practicing like this mindful breathing?
The funny thing about that is I feel like if this was practiced with caregiver and child, even, say what you will, but arguably in infancy, like co-regulation, we learn a lot by witnessing at that young age.
Yeah.
And I've seen 2-year-olds whose parents who may be clients of mine, for example, their parents have started to learn how to regulate their emotions and take deep breaths when they're frustrated, and they've brought their kid into that at 2 years old. And so now they deep breathe together. Or if mommy's sad, the child actually was like, Mom, let's do our breathing. And
that's incredible.
Beautiful, right? And so think like, oh, we should teach them when they can fully understand and fully grasp the concept. Kids are so much smarter.
Yeah, you can model at a very young age. They're watching everything, right?
Absolutely. And so if they witness you in this intentional space of breathing, which could be 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth for 3 seconds, 3 times. Right?
And just calling attention to it.
Yeah.
Like mommy just needs to take a few deep breaths right now.
Yes, absolutely. Vocalizing what's happening. So not just a flustered caregiver or teacher, right? A lot of teachers are super overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So naturally, I think we're so used to hiding these feelings of overwhelm.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. And so normalizing the feeling of overwhelm and teaching the coping skill and the regulation technique. Overwhelm isn't going to go away. That's right.
Here. That's right. It's here to stay. And it comes up in a lot of different settings, right? Home, school, work. And so teaching those coping skills is really huge. And I know that at least here in Los Angeles, in the last decade, there has been some movement, especially in some charter schools, to really make this a practice and spend time each day with mindfulness. So I think that we still have a long way to go, but there are not that many children's books that I found that actually deal with this topic. So I was really excited to find your book.
Yeah, and children love books.
Oh, absolutely.
Children love books, and even if it's just for the illustration, hopefully the illustration also gives a visual cue.
Yes.
I want to touch on what you said about the mindfulness being implemented into schools. I've read a few research studies on they have been replacing detention with yoga and meditation. And I find that to be so beautiful. The research is obviously like still a lot to be done, but there have been such promising results.
That's great.
I taught high school for a moment, and when I read that, I tried it out instead of discipline and authoritative kind of approach. I would have them come into my room for lunch and we'd just be mindful and we talk. And it was very confusing for them because they're so used to getting in trouble.
Yes.
It decreased it. I mean, I noticed a shift in the teacher-student relationship. I noticed a shift in their behavior and in their work. It was
Amazing.
beautiful. And I calling out what people are going through, what kids are going through too. Kids are going through a lot.
Yeah.
They're growing.
Yeah.
Their bodies are going through so much. Calling attention to that, validating it, and then being with them in it is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, what are the outcomes that I know the outcomes that you got to see in your own classroom in high school, but is there research on young children, being able to label their feelings and engage in this deep and intentional breathing? Okay.
Absolutely. There is a ton of being able to label emotions is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a few children and a few adults right now as a therapist, and I've noticed that the adults who have a difficult time with their emotions often don't have a language, an emotional language whatsoever. We have these beautiful like emotion wheels. It looks like a color wheel, but there's different emotions and different ways to express them, because sometimes sad doesn't fit. Sometimes I'm feeling something else. And one of my favorite things to do when I was young, which is super silly, but it worked, was I would go on thesaurus.com and I would type in an emotion and I would look for all of the synonyms.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And I would look and I'd try and figure out on my own, like, what am I actually feeling? Like, I know it's maybe a sad feeling, but sad doesn't quite fit the box. Mm-hmm. And that's really important. And in turn, noticing some people are a little bit more somatic, so physical, than they are emotional first. I personally have an emotional brain. I'm often in this emotion mind naturally. And a lot of people that I've worked with who don't have this language, very physical, they notice stomach aches, they notice tension in their shoulders and in their chest, they notice headaches and migraines. And a lot of times we'll go to a doctor for that and there is no cause, and they'll say, oh, you're just stressed. Yes, you are stressed, maybe not just stressed, but it's often a lot of emotion going on inside that isn't being expressed and it isn't being released.
And it's stuck. Yeah.
Stuck. And a big thing with the breathing too is letting oxygen enter our bodies like that moves things around.
Yeah.
Calming our bodies allows space to get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the yogis have known that for a long time, right?
I mean, I knew that they were onto something. I walked in, everyone's so calm here. And now I get
what am I missing?
Yes. And it's one thing, yoga in general, not to get off topic, but that is one thing that I will never give up. I notice a big shift in my body and in my energy if I don't. I also have a chronic illness. I have fibromyalgia. And so a lot of that is emotionally triggered. It's basically everything I'm talking about. It's body pain for emotional distress. Maybe emotional distress triggers the pain. And when I'm not breathing deeply, when I'm not connecting my mind and my body, you notice. I lose my grounding. And that's very important. Very important.
Well, can you take us through a little breathing exercise that parents can maybe do with their kids wherever they may be?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes if you're comfortable. You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
And if you're sitting down, for the listeners too, if you're sitting down, start to feel the earth beneath your feet or wherever you may be. Start to feel this physical sensation of your body, where it is in this moment. And as I'm speaking, allowing a little ball of light to start to develop in your view. It could be big, it could be small. You have this ball of light. And I want this ball of light to trail up and down with the sound of my voice, starting at your root. So starting at like your lower tummy. And I'm going to inhale for a count of 3, 2, 1. And as I inhale, I want that ball of light to go all the way to the top of my head. And as I exhale, I want it to go all the way back down. So in a moment, but not yet, I'm going to guide you through that. It'll be an inhale for 3 seconds and an exhale for 3 seconds with a little hold at the top. So exhale all of your stale air, empty it out, and inhale for 3. Ball goes up for 2, up at the top at 1 and hold. Exhale for 3, ball goes down for 2, and it ends the base at 1. And you can do that a few times on your own, making sure that your tummy is pushing out when you inhale and your tummy contracts in through your exhale. And at the end of your final exhale, you can open your eyes.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
I really do feel a lot calmer. And I've never learned it that way, right? Like the different people approach mindfulness differently. And I've taken, yoga, and I've also done it through my doctor's office, that offered it. But I really do like, and I think it's a really simple way to teach children that visual of like, okay, you've got this ball of light and it goes up to your head and then it goes back down to your belly. And like, yeah, it kind of naturally, like your belly fills up. And then when you're breathing out, it tightens. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the visual so important, not just for kids, but for adults too.
Yeah.
This misconception with meditation in general that our mind should be completely
blank. Yes.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
Yes. And actually the first time I did it, that kind of was, and it was really hard for me.
Absolutely.
And this just like naturally, it was real natural the way you just did that.
Yeah. And if we give our brains something to focus on, a calm image, a lot of times for whatever reason, I'm floating in an ocean, and that is the picture in my head as I'm meditating. It's a happy place for me. I don't have to have a blank mind, but if thoughts start to come in and out, not to judge them, just to say,
let
hey,
them go. Yeah.
Thank you for coming up, and then letting it pass. We don't need to be more frustrated with ourselves than we already are. But the ball of light I love, because the ball of light to me is my emotion, my energy, my whatever it may be, that I get to control. And I get to control up and I get to control down. Yeah. Having that visual is very helpful for me.
Yeah, it really was for me as well. I really like that.
Yeah.
And parents can take that anywhere, right? You could be in the car, you could be in a grocery store and your child's having a meltdown. Like you could do that anywhere.
Absolutely. And also on that point, shifting the tone of voice. I know it's so hard when our kids are having a meltdown or they're yelling at a tone that really heightens our nervous system.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's our job as caregivers and as people who are attending to these children to speak back to them in a tone and in a cadence that they deserve to hear, and in a calm and gentle manner. Granted, it's not going to happen all the time. And we get to witness how fast it actually regulates the other person, even with adults.
Yeah.
In a heated argument, if I'm calm, chances are I'm going to calm the other person down with my voice. And that's awesome.
And you have a very calming presence anyway, just by the way.
Thank you. I hope so.
Lea, do you have any other book projects that you are working on or thinking about starting?
And I'm so excited for everyone to be able to read 1, 2, 3, Breathe, Bumble Bee, but there's a few other characters in the book. And I am working on developing their stories. So
Okay. Wonderful.
I can give enough information right now. Can I? I don't,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
And there is a strong sheep.
Okay.
There is a mindful monkey.
Okay.
There's a grateful giraffe, and there's a free frog. And the concept behind those characters is that the strong sheep is also sometimes a sad sheep, and that's okay. And they can be both. And that doesn't, being sad doesn't mitigate our strength. It doesn't take that away from us.
Yeah.
Same with,
although sometimes society tells us that, right?
Yes.
So I love that.
Goodness. A lot of times we'll say the word but. I'm strong, but I'm sad. And that but statement, if you notice, I only say the word and. That but statement kind of says, forget the strong, I'm sad. So if I say I'm strong and I'm sad, it says that I can identify with both, identify with as many as I want. And that is one of my favorite things I've learned in like my therapy journey, as a therapist, as a client. It's been so powerful. So yeah, the strong sheep can also be a sad sheep. Yeah. So I'm developing their books, and they will get their own stories and journeys as to how someone who feels sad can also feel strong. Someone who feels mad can also feel mindful.
I can't wait to read them, and I hope that you'll come back on and introduce your new books when they are ready to come out.
So excited. I'm so excited. And I enjoy all this. I enjoy the feedback. I enjoy creating fun little stories. So if anyone has ideas.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And something else that I just want to mention to everybody, because I was so just touched when you told me this right before we recorded, that you are donating books, hospitals and schools, and taking some to Ukraine. I mean, it's just, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Oh, you just gave me the chills, because that's why, that is why the book became a book, was because there's a need for it. There's a need for self-regulation for children, and for education on those purposes, and to provide these books to places in low socioeconomic status neighborhoods where, there's a lot of things their parents are worried about, and they might not have the time or even the knowledge of these resources. Providing them to the community centers, the hospitals where, children are fighting very, terrible things and need mindfulness and need those regulation techniques, because now their mental health is suffering too with everything going on. I have a friend who is actually going to Ukraine and in 2 weeks, and I am having take along some books and take them to the refugee camps, because again, their situation, it's not going to go away.
No.
Right.
Can you imagine the stress that those families and children are under? And
that is very invalidating to wish and hope, because at this point, what's done is done. They are in these camps. They have undergone all this trauma. Same with, the stories in the community center or the hospital, like I was talking about, their reality is their reality. So now what can we do? So now, how can I help you be the most self-sufficient, self-regulated person to overcome your adversity? So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm sending like little notes in there and everything. And I actually, I'm pretty sure I'm going to start a donation match for every book purchased. I will send a confirmation to you on that though, so that you can tell definitely your listeners.
Yes.
But I really think that is my next step with the book, that's the point, is to get it to as many children and caregivers as possible.
Yes. And where can families buy your book, and then also find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah. Barnes and Noble,
Okay. Okay.
Also, if you walked into any Barnes and Noble, you can ask an associate for the book and they will get it sent to you. So it's currently just online, and
Great.
yeah, that's amazing. If there was anybody listening who wanted to do something like a bulk order, they can contact me directly, and I'll give you my
I'll
email.
put
Yeah.
all of your information and social media contacts.
Write a pen right now.
Yeah.
Grab a pen and come back.
I'll put it all in the in the show notes.
Yeah. Yay. Yeah, but that's how you would be able to do that if that was the way anybody wanted to go. But individually at Barnes and Noble, and I'll send you the link as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Lea, thanks for being on with us today. I've learned a lot, and I hope everyone else has too. And your book is really wonderful, and I know it's going to help a lot of kids.
Thank you for having me. I love what you do as well. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Well, little readers, we'll see you next time. And don't forget to tune in to hear Lea's book, 1, 2, 3, Breathe, Bumble Bee. See you next time.
Thank you for joining me today. Remember to like and subscribe to support our channel.